about like fighting for what you believe in and fighting for your feelings and hanging on to the love that you feel instead of running away from it. It's good.
And that's a good. No, that's a great concept of a way to describe the song and everything. But I was just, as you were talking, I was wondering how often has that happened, whether this album or other albums, where you wrote the song in one form, and then when the reviewers or the music people from the different radio stations would play it, they had a different meaning or a different thought about it. So just out of curiosity, you've had a long career, started in the late 90s and everything. So in the, 20 years, how often has that happened that you would write it one way and then they'd come back and be like, no, that's not what I was thinking?
Well, I think that happens all the time, but I think that is just part and parcel of being an artist. And I think that you could get all bent out of shape about it. But look, if someone is reacting to it, and I think when you react to art, say like a painting, right, it's going to elicit some feeling in one person and a different feeling in another person, and it has to do with their life. You know what I mean? Like their life experience. And what art is supposed to do is it's supposed to like make you feel. So, I mean, just because it has a very specific meaning the way I wrote it, if someone else's life experience is maybe they're in a relationship that's not so good and they do want to get away and they're like, and they can use this to feel what they need to feel to deal with that, then I think that's cool. I mean, it's just like a dream, like if you have a dream,
right?
You could explain in that dream 50 different ways. Like you could interpret it 50 different ways, right? You could say, oh, well, the snake means this, or the tree means this, and so I think songwriting is like that, and I'd like to leave some space in my songs where I can talk about what I think they mean to me, and even for me, my songs have a lot of different levels of meaning for myself. But I think that what I'm moving toward in my life of songwriting is really more and more is my I have a deal with God, like
right.
You let me keep doing this, and I'm going to keep helping people feel feelings, because that's what art is for, in my opinion.
And I imagine that whether it's, and I don't know whether you consider yourself a Christian or not, but I imagine that spirituality, whether that's just being in tune with Mother Nature or whether that's some sort of grounded church kind of environment, is also very important in your songwriting. Because I know a lot of my friends that are musicians, they say that that's almost vital to their songwriting, that they have to have some sort of grounding in something spiritual. It may not be church-based, but spiritual-based.
I think that all art is spiritual. I don't think art exists without the spiritual. I mean, I think product can exist, but I think I'm doing the best that I can to do my part as an artist. So I'm not saying like, oh, I'm all that, but I'm saying like, I think all the best art, it comes straight from the source, like it doesn't, right. We're just letting it pass through us, we're just lucky to let it pass through us and be colored by our own experiences. So yeah, of course. I mean, I'm sure there are people that don't think that way, but I can't not think that way, because without, however you want to look at it, if you want to say God or Jesus or whatever way you want to say, I mean, there's definitely a bigger thing going on with the muse and with artistic expression. It isn't just a human. I noticed I'm sounding out there, I guess, but you sounded very between the divine and between humanity. There's a kind of a beauty in it that doesn't naturally exist. We need help. Us humans need help.
Because the muse is very much important in everything. You just mentioned the muse and everything. Yeah. And I've dabbled in some creativity, and I've got friends that are very creative. My dad is a photographic artist as well as does some other forms of visual arts and everything. But
Cool.
I'm just amazed. I'm just amazed sometimes that this creativity happens in like the weirdest hours. I don't think that artists of any medium have the most normal sleep schedule because, like you said, that muse might hit you. That muse might hit you at like 2 a.m. or it might hit you at like 5 p.m. in the evening after a day job after if you've gone the 9 to 5 route. So it seems that the muse seems to be in control much more than us humans because the muse just like will wake you up in the middle of the day and be like, I think you need to write that down now. Now the thing that I'm oftentimes amazed by is how often creative people, and I don't know how they do it, but can ignore the muse because sometimes people will get woken up or have a dream or some sort of inspiration, and rather than leap up like I think most of the more creative people do and put it down on something, they'll just be like, that's all right, I'll get to it when I get to it, and then they'll wonder why they forgot it.
Yeah, I have slept with a recording device. Before I had a phone. Now it's really easy. I just leave my recorder like up on my dock so I can just 2 taps and I can just blah, 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 to my phone in the middle of the night if I have a dream or I definitely get a lot of my ideas in the middle of the night. And I do stay up late when I'm writing. In fact, when I'm writing, I'm usually hardly sleeping. That's why I kind of go into writing mode. I don't think I could live in writing mode because I'd probably go crazy for lack of sleep. But I think that it's important. You have to. You can't tell the muse, okay, now it's time. Let's do this now. It's mysterious, and that's part of the struggle, but it's also part of the beauty of it. And when the muse shows up and that connection is there, it is a spiritual connection, and it's really, if you've ever experienced it, it's just one of the most beautiful experiences I think that you can have in life. And I think that we keep chasing that once you have it, because you're like, I need for that to happen again,
Try to find ways to inspire it, try to find ways to make it happen, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I think we might get into that habit of trying to force the music to come, and I think the music is going to come on its own schedule, and we can't actually dictate when that music is going to show up.
Yeah, one of my friends who's a really amazing photographer, he said something to me a long time ago that still sticks with me, because I had a young child and I was trying to write my 3rd record, and I was just really struggling with, time. Like when, like I've got to have this time to do this and this time to do this. And he's like, Kim, you got to have like 3 days to just stare at the ceiling, because you have to get so unwound from your earthly life or just your day-to-day. It's very hard. That's why I think artistic people tend to live kind of outside of, say, the regular world. We do stay up late. We do, if we don't have to have 9 to 5 jobs. I think it's really hard to have a 9 to 5. I mean, to be an artistic person, I think you have to do it full time. And as you're saying, it's, sometimes it's harder and harder to make enough money to do that. And in other countries, they give artists grants because they realize how important arts are for the overall culture. So I don't know. Like, I do think that sometimes when you get too wound up because you're trying to make the creative process happen, you just need to be in nature. You almost need to just do nothing for a while. And that's when you start opening up your vessel so that things can come in. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's a million ways to get there, but yeah.
And I wish that more people would do that kind of scholarship for the arts in our country, and definitely, and I'm sure there are other countries as well. But I do know that there are other countries that, like you said, definitely do a better job of supporting their arts and actually subsidizing their arts. Whereas here, and I know it's definitely the case in LA, we have the stereotypical artists that are working at McDonald's or Burger King or whatever the fast food restaurant is there, or whatever the bar is, because they have to do something to make their living, or they wind up getting caught up in, for lack of a better term, blue kind of movies just to pay their bills, because they're trying to find a way to make some sort of living while they're pursuing whatever their art form is.
Yeah, and it's hard. I think there's just two problems. Well, there's lots of problems, but there's two problems here that I'm thinking of, and one is there's just I think that I don't really know how to say this, but I think there's just too many people trying to be famous or rich or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that drives a lot of people to move into these artistic fields, but I feel like they're not doing it for the, to be an artist. They're doing it because, everything in our culture right now is about being famous or rich or showing how amazing you are on your social media and stuff like that. And so it's like, I remember when I was a kid, which was, a little bit back. I'm not super old, but, when I was a kid, it was okay to just be a regular person, what? My father is a plumber and he makes a living. And, my mom, I don't know, is a librarian or whatever. Like all those normal parts of all those normal things that people would do in life were actually considered to be cool. And you had I don't mean cool, but I mean like okay. And it was okay to be middle class or to be like working toward being middle class. Now, like it's like nobody is okay with that anymore. It's like, oh no, unless I'm rich or famous, I'm a complete failure. And it's like, I think that is totally taken over our culture, and that's part of the reason why there's too many people trying to be musicians right now. Too many people trying to be famous actors and actresses or influencers or all these things that we have. It's like some of y'all can't we just live a normal life? Can't we just like be with our families and go do fun things on the weekends and just be do you know what I'm saying though?
Yeah, I definitely understand that, because I even sometimes wonder, and I'm curious of what your thoughts on this is going to be, if that doesn't become an issue. You mentioned earlier the popularity and the growing popularity of cover bands, and I agree there are tons of cover bands now. They cover everything from the Beatles to the Jackson 5 to, I think there's one for Chicago, but they cover all kinds of different styles of music and everything. But a lot of times those bands are made up of, I think part of the reason that bands get in trouble as cover bands is that they're what I call half and half bands, meaning that half of the members of the band want to use the band as a vehicle to pursue a career, whether that's a career, and not necessarily fame, but a career, like make that their career. And the other half are, for lack of a better term, hobbyists. They're doing it just as something to do on the side for the weekend. And then that becomes a whole issue with the band, because the band is sitting there going like, look, I want to push my career, and then the hobbyists are sitting there going like, look, I'm perfectly fine coming here on Saturday and Sunday playing in whatever the towns are that are nearby and working, my insurance job Monday through Friday.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what opening bands are. Opening bands are the local bands that are in the town when the touring bands come through to play. That's normal. But this whole thing, and I'll just say this to any musician out there, stop covering songs. Just stop it, because you're taking up all the space for new things to happen. And that's why we have Spotify and Apple Music and like everything available to us. It's the easiest thing in the world to cover music. Anybody can do it. Really. I mean, seriously, takes very little talent really to be a cover band. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah, you need to be able to play your instrument, but I mean, making new material is what art is. I mean, I don't know.
So I'm guessing you're not the biggest fan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that you're probably not the biggest fan of open mics and of those kind of like music competitions, because that's all they do is they're going to do cover music. They're going to do cover music of whatever those songs are, and I don't know how much actual training they're going to give. Not so much the jam sessions, because we had John Brown who had Duke. But
that's fun for like non-professionals, right? That's a thing that people do that just live in the town to go out and have some fun. That's not what I'm talking about.